Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And today's range report is definitely on something you don't see every day. We're going to be taking a look at and reviewing a unicorn variant of a unicorn gun. And this is going to be the Mateba Unica Grifone. And Grifone means griffin in Italian, and this is a carbine built off of the Mateba Unica Autorevolver. And it's a firearm that blends a semi-automatic pistol, or maybe in this case, a semi-automatic action with a revolver. It is unique, it is different, and it's really kind of hard to describe. Now, I have reviewed some of the revolvers by themselves, not in carbine form, and one was in 357 Magnum and one was in 44 Magnum, and I'm going to put a link to those reviews in the description below, and I would recommend that you guys go check those out before watching this review to kind of understand the pros and cons of this design. But yeah, this thing is definitely beautiful, but definitely a unicorn in the world of gun collecting. So I can't wait to get this thing to the range and shoot it and see what it's all about. But before we get into the things that I like and don't like, as always, I want to thank the people that make these videos possible. First and foremost is the owner of this amazing firearm. His name is Jack. He's a local fan and subscriber. And let me just tell you, I am honored and humbled that he would lend such a cool and rare gun to the channel for review. So thank you so much, Jack. You're absolutely amazing. As always, I want to thank my Patreon supporters, because through their monthly donations and support, they help keep the lights on around here, and I could not make this content without them. And if you guys want to join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month, there's a link in the description below, and you can see all of these videos early. And as always, I want to thank my primary sponsor, who always provides the ammunition for these range reports, thus making them financially feasible for me, my good friend Mark from Brownworks. And on the table today, we have a very beautiful gun made of wood and steel. And you probably love guns made of wood and steel. They just have that classic look. Maybe you have a Colt 1911, a Browning High Power, a Beretta 92, or a CZ 75, and they take wood panel grips. And you've been thinking to yourself, it'd be really cool if I had a set of customized wood grips for my gun. Well, I have the perfect company for you, Brownworks. Brownworks is a custom grip company making a wide variety of grips for a wide variety of firearms out of a wide variety of exotic woods and materials. As I always tell you, Mark is an artist. He's a craftsman. He's always coming up with new and innovative things to build his grips out of and put on. He can put things like custom logos, custom engravings, snake skin, alligator skin, and he can even make grips out of laminate woods that he makes himself. His work is outstanding, and I think he makes some of the most beautiful and best grips in the world. And I want you guys to go check out his website. So I'm going to put a link in the comments section below, as well as a coupon code for 10% off your first order. So please go over there, see what he has to offer, and if you don't find what you're looking for, please make sure to contact Mark and place that custom order. And when you do, please tell him the Texas Gun Vault sent you. All right, so let's dive a little bit more into exactly what this gun is and what we're talking about today. Once again, this is the Mateba Unica Grifone. Now, on the side of this gun, it also says Sportiva, but my research has shown me that Sportiva was a variant of the handgun variety of this gun, but I'm not sure if there was a Sportiva Grifone, but I was not able to find any information on that. So maybe the receiver of this originally started out as a handgun and was converted at the factory before being shipped to a carbine, and that's why they put the Grifone mark on there as well. All of the Matebas are designed by an engineer by the name of Emilio Ghisoni, and he also helped make the Chiappa Rhino, so you're probably familiar with his work. He spent a lot of time in trying to revolutionize the revolver world. He came up with different ideas when it came to manufacturing and design, and I think really tried to innovate in ways that no one else had ever done before. And the Matebas, I personally think, are kind of his crowning achievement. I mean, who else would think to try to blend a semi-automatic pistol and a revolver into one? And I think he did it pretty successfully, and all variants of the Matebas are highly collectible and highly sought after even today. This particular example is chambered in .357 Magnum, and like I mentioned in the other reviews of the revolvers, or the auto revolvers, the name of this is 6 Unica. Now, most people think the 6 means for the number of rounds that is in the cylinder when it is fully loaded. However, in Italian, they call this the Sei Unica, which is kind of a play on words meaning you're unique. And trust me, this gun definitely is super duper unique. There's nothing else in the world like this. So it is really a treasure in someone's collection, and Jack has an amazing gun here, so it's a real treat for me just to get to hold it and to get to review it. So as always, before we get this thing to the range, I like to talk about the things that I like and don't like. And as always, I like to start with the positive first. So what's the positive about this gun that I absolutely love? The first thing I have to mention, well, of course, the action of this gun. So let me show you this on camera. The top portion of what would kind of be the revolver actually is on a slide. And when the upper moves, it cocks the hammer and rotates the cylinder. And that's just like the handgun variant. However, this does have a 18-inch barrel, and you'll also notice when the slide is moved back, the barrel moves in the stock. So the whole barrel has to move in the action, and I love learning about different ways that guns work and operate, and I think that is just the absolutely coolest thing about this gun. It is just awesome. I also think this gun has an absolutely beautiful, beautiful finish and stock to it. I mean, the wood on this is just gorgeous. And I did notice that with the other Mateba auto revolvers, that the grips are just beautiful. But the way the wood is finished is gorgeous, and the finish on the firearm itself kind of looks like a Colt Royal Deep Blue. It might not be just as nice, but man, that finish is absolutely gorgeous, and you can tell that Mateba took a lot of time and effort into finishing this gun and definitely making it something special. It really kind of is a work of art. Like the other auto revolvers, I really like the sighting system of this. The rear sight is fixed, but the front sight has adjustments for windage and elevation, and it's very easy to adjust them. So depending on how you need to sight this thing in, you wouldn't have any trouble whatsoever. Now, something else you might not be able to tell from just looking at this, but this gun is actually relatively light, and I do like that. It looks like it would be really heavy with all of this wood, and of course the gun is made out of steel. But overall, the weight of this gun is very, very light, and I think it's a very comfortable gun to hold. But now let's talk about a couple things about this gun that I don't like, that I noticed here on the workbench. Now, this gun reminds me a lot of the Thompson submachine gun when it comes to the stock and the angle of the stock. Now, if you look at the butt pad of this stock, it is very curved, and obviously it is designed to go into your shoulder. But however, when it comes to my body, this stock goes way low on my shoulder. If I bring it up, I have the pointed section kind of up here, and it's not very comfortable. So you want to hold it a lot lower. But that means my head has to come way down and be very tilted. And this is not a very comfortable way for me to shoot the gun. And it's very reminiscent, as I said, of the Thompson submachine gun. It has the exact same issue. For me, it's no fun to shoot unless I can really get it on my shoulder the right way, and I have to bend my head. This gun just doesn't have a stock that has any adjustments to it, and I don't like the curve of this butt plate. It's just not very comfortable for me. The other thing about this gun that I don't like is something I discovered in my other reviews. And if I didn't know that ahead of time, I wouldn't know to say I don't like this. But it has to do with the loading and unloading of this gun. You can only open the cylinder when the hammer is down. So I have to lower this hammer here to open the cylinder. But if you're somebody like me, and when you're shooting revolvers, you may count your rounds and you're trying to load this fast, you might shoot 6 rounds and want to load this thing. Nope, you have to pull the trigger to have that hammer drop to load the gun. And then when you try to load it and all of the rounds are in the cylinder, you still have to push down on the cylinder release to get the gun to close. Now, you notice I didn't have any issues there, but at the range, I have to push this lever down. There's something about when the rounds are in the cylinder, it will not close comfortably or easily without doing that. And I find that loading and unloading this gun is kind of painstaking. Not that it's bad, it's just time consuming, and especially in a world where we're so used to just inserting a magazine, or even if you use speed loaders with this gun, it's just a slower process, and you only get 6 rounds. So if you want to go to the range and put 100 rounds through this thing in a long range trip, well, it's kind of time consuming and just something that you would have to get used to when it comes to understanding how this gun functions and works. It's just a little bit antiquated, and while this is definitely cool, I just don't know if I'm the biggest fan of revolver carbines. There's definitely pros and cons to it, but I think there's more cons. But who knows, this thing may shoot like a dream, and it being so rare, I definitely think that's something I could probably overlook. But before we get this thing to the range, I want to show you the trigger on it. Now, with the other Mateba revolvers that I've had, the trigger has been absolutely fantastic, and I think this one is exactly the same. So let me go ahead and adjust the camera. Let's get out the lineman trigger pull weight gauge, and let's see what this trigger measures at, and then we'll take it to the range. All right, so like the other Mateba firearms, this actually has a pretty darn good trigger in it. Now, because I will be dry firing this and I want to protect it, I will go ahead and use some snap caps. So let me go ahead and put these in the cylinder. There we go. Let's close it up, and you do have to use the cylinder latch, open that so it will go in and close. And there we go. So now let me show you this double action pull. Now this double action pull is so heavy I can't measure it on the gauge, but it is really long, very heavy, but I would say it is predictable. I would have to estimate, even though it goes off the gauge, probably at about 13 to 14 pounds. But now let's test this single action. And so it's a very short take up. You hit that wall, it's very predictable, and that is exceptionally light. So I think we need to test this trigger. So let's go ahead and get out the lineman trigger pull weight gauge, and let's clear the averages, and let's test this thing out. And after each test, I will rack the slide, and here we go for our first pull. £4, 6.0 ounces. £4, 8.0 ounces. £4, 7.9 ounces. £4, 11.9 ounces. And finally, £4, 12.8 ounces for an average of £4, 9.3 ounces. So the trigger actually feels a lot lighter than that, but that's what this meter is registering it at. And as you can see, it is pretty darn predictable, but those weights are in line with the other Matebas that I have reviewed. So that's what I know about the trigger. So let's now get this thing to the range. So as always, I like to start with the carbines at 10 yards and just get my initial thoughts and impressions and see if there's anything about this gun that I discover that I like or don't like, and report back to you. So let's get to the range, 10 yards, and let's put a couple cylinders through this and see how I like it. All right, and so right off the bat, we have a problem. Yeah, it only fired 5 of the 6 rounds. And I know what some of you guys are gonna say. Well, was it a light primer strike? Well, no, it wasn't. When I removed the cartridge from the cylinder, it had no primer strike whatsoever. Now I'm going to go ahead and spoil a little bit of this review. This is actually a problem that's going to persist, but I am going to try to see if the gun is going to work and actually be able to run through all 6 rounds in the cylinder, but that's not going to happen, and we're going to talk about some possibilities of why that is. But let's talk about my initial impressions though with just those 5 shots. There were 2 things that surprised me. Number 1, the gun is a lot louder than I was expecting. Many times when you have a carbine version of a pistol, it's a lot quieter because the barrel is longer. However, a revolver has cylinder gap, and so you're going to have gases escaping around this. And when you're firing a revolver, you're holding it quite a far distance from your face. But here in the carbine, it's right up close to you. So you're feeling that concussion and you're smelling that gas as it's being discharged from the firearm. Also, because of that cylinder gap, you're feeling the release of the hot gases on your forearm. Yeah, that is really kind of disturbing when you're not used to it. And those gases can kind of be hot. No, it didn't burn you, but it was definitely a big surprise. All right, well, I do want to give this thing another shot. I want to see if I can get this thing to run like it's supposed to, and hopefully this is not going to be a persistent problem, but as I said, I'm kind of spoiling it. It really is. There's going to be something wrong with this gun. Not 100% sure, but we're going to go through the options in the next segment. But here we go. Let's try to put a couple more cylinders through this and see if I can get it running right. And it looks like we may have a consistent problem. This gun does not seem to want to fire the 6th round in the cylinder. Now, why is that? Well, I've come up with a couple of possible solutions. Number 1, a weak hammer spring. But that doesn't explain why it's always the 6th round. Another issue it could be is a deformed firing pin, but once again, you would think that that would happen on other rounds and not just the 6th one. The other thing it could be, maybe, is the gun is out of time, but I'm not a revolver expert and I don't think this is a timing issue either. But the problem does seem to be consistent, and of course, this being such a rare and collectible gun, I don't want to damage it any further. Now, I am going to shoot it just a little bit more to see if this problem persists, but I'm definitely taking it easy on this gun because I don't know how hard it would be to find a gunsmith who knows how to work on this and further have to find any parts for it. So I don't want to damage it if there's something else going on with this gun. And unfortunately, sometimes when it comes to these rare and collectible guns that are almost one of a kind, sometimes you do have issues with them because all these guns are a little bit old. I know these were actually made about 1999, and I know a lot of people that watch this channel are way older than that. I know I was born in 1980, so calling this old, well, to a lot of people, it's not very old at all. But maybe in the world of guns, it kind of is, and of course, parts do wear out, and it's kind of a rare gun. But that being said, I definitely want to make sure that I treat this gun with respect and not damage it any further than possibly what it already is. But I don't think it's damaged because we get 5 rounds off. But it's really weird why the 6th one won't go off. But I want to try this one more time. Who knows, maybe it's just beginner's luck or anti-luck. So here we go, one more time. Let's put 2 more cylinders through this and let's just see if I can get this gun to function more reliably. Now I know what some people are going to ask me. Did you change the ammunition? And yes, I did, because I did think that maybe the rounds that I were using had hard primers. So I changed it up and I still had the same issue. Now the first cylinder, I was able to get all 6 off. But then I had problems not just on the 6th, but other ones. So I have decided at this point to suspend the review. And I think you understand why. There's something mechanically that's just a little bit off with this gun. So I do want to give it back to the owner and let him decide what he wants to do. And I do not want to potentially damage it any further. But just getting this opportunity to shoot it, I have learned a lot about this gun. So what are my final thoughts on the 6 Unica Grifone by Mateba? Now, I'm not going to give this gun a rating because I did not shoot enough rounds through it and in various ways to really say if this is an awesome gun or not. I will tell you the loading of the gun is kind of painstaking. It's a little bit slow, especially if you're used to more traditional semi-automatic guns. But of course, it is an autorevolver carbine, so what can you expect? I don't like the fact that when you shoot it, it's a lot louder, you feel the concussion in your face, and you get the gas bleed off from the cylinder hitting your forearm. I do not like that, but the gun does seem to be accurate and the trigger is very nice, and of course this is such a beautiful, beautiful firearm, and if you're a collector, I mean, this thing would just be a crown jewel of your collection, regardless if it's a great shooter or not, because of how rare and special and unique it is. But there's definitely a lot of things about this gun that are pros, but a couple things that I experienced that were definitely cons. So this is not going to get a rating on my range report, and you guys understand why. I'm definitely not saying that it's a piece of junk, because I know there are a few of these in circulation out there and other people do not have this problem. But I have to suspend the review, or the shooting portion of the review, because I do not want to potentially damage this if it is broken in some way. So I am going to return this to its owner, Jack. Thank him once again for lending it to the channel, and he'll have to decide what he wants to do. Maybe he'll take it to the range and he can diagnose the issue himself and decide what he wants to do with it. But it is an absolutely gorgeous gun, and it is still cool that I got to shoot a couple of cylinders through it, even though I did have some issues. So that's my thoughts, experiences, and opinions, without a rating, of the Mateba 6 Unica Grifone, or in this case, because the receiver says it, the Sportiva Grifone, in 357 Magnum. And what do you guys think? You guys own any unicorn guns? Because this thing is definitely a unicorn gun, one of a kind. I don't know anybody else that owns one, and I doubt that I will ever see one again and get to shoot another one. So this has been an absolute treat, regardless of having that issue. So let me know what you think in the comment section below, and if you have any idea what could be causing this. If you're knowledgeable in the world of revolvers, it would mean a lot to me, and I know a lot to the owner, if you can help us diagnose this problem. So, as always, thanks for watching.